Hello and welcome to Jamie's Motion Graphics. Today we are discussing shape layers and more specifically why and when you would use shape layers instead of solids. Okay, here we are once again in After Effects. We are going to start off with a new composition just to show you what it is like to be a shape layer. So here we go, shape layer selected. Shape layers are meant to contain a lot of shapes, or at least one, and you can, well, the advantages, so you can make these shapes here, but you can also make them on solids. The advantage is that you can actually address them directly afterwards. So when you make a mask, so I can make a mask in this one as well, you can't really do anything to the actual mask points. As you can see, you have mask path here, but you can't address the points directly. You can't change the shape that it has. That's why I picked a star, because, well, if I want to change the shape of the star, it becomes very, well, impossible mainly. And if I wanted to do that with a rectangle, of course I could still do that if I really wanted to. But with any shape that's not either a circle or, well, I guess an ellipse or a rectangle, it becomes very hard to scale this, for example. Whereas if I look at the shape layer, I can just say, well, I have the points, I can up the amount of points that I have. Hang on, because I have the layer selected currently. So yeah, I can up the amount of points that I have. I can change my positions. Yeah, this is why. I can change the position of where it is. Well, I can do that in other things as well. So the position is kind of not that important. Rotation is not that important. But here, in a radius, for example, I can change that. So I can change the shape of my selection afterwards. And that's where these shape layers are so great. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of shape layers, as some of you might know if you've seen some of my other tutorials, because I generally don't like the complexity they have for, well, simple tasks. So let's make it like this and demonstrate one other great thing that is in a shape layer. If I have this one and I go to the, well, one of the shape layer options here, which is the add, and I pick, for example, repeater. I can make multiples of my same thing, which you're like, yeah, so, but you can actually do quite a lot with that if you, for example, just go into your properties of the repeater. You can select, well, the position is currently set at 100, so that's why it's offset by 100. I'm going to set that to 0, and I'm going to set the rotation to, let's say, 30 degrees. And then I'm going to repeat it 12 times. And then you can see you can easily make a perfectly round thing that, that gets repeated off of one shape. And it is perfect in every way because, well, the numbers match up. It's 30 degrees 12 times, so that's exactly 360 degrees. And then, of course, we can add things or remove things from all of them at the same time. And that is where it comes in so useful. So yeah, the rotation itself, obviously we can change that as well. So that, of course, moves all of them. And you can make some pretty nice rotations with that. I should actually try to make one with just the repeater property. And yeah, we can address the position, and as you can see, you can make some really nice effects off of that as well, because it affects all of them. And, well, that's exactly the point. The repeater just repeats everything that it sees. So it takes the distance from this one to the midpoint, which is currently over here. I don't know why. Well, I probably changed something here that actually makes that happen, like this. And oh no, sorry, this is the repeater. I probably changed something in one of the transforms. Yeah, here it is. No, not that. I wanted 720, 360. That should do it for a little bit, and then this should be, yeah, that's the polystar. So our position should be 0 something. And then we should have the perfect circle. Well, rotation 0. I don't know. I don't know where or why that's not in the top, but hey, whatever. You can see that you can modify everything, and that is exactly what makes these shape layers great. So you can also just manually drag it out and put it somewhere else, and you can see everything just moves with it. You can also animate the number of points, for example, over time. That can also be used, and you can of course combine this with masks. So if I make a mask on this as well, then you can even make more beautiful shapes. Let's take an ellipse here and just start in the middle. And oh, now it's, yeah, I did that wrong. I wanted to have a mask. And I can let them intersect right here. And then you get some other nice shapes. So you can combine masks with shape layers to make them even better. And well, you can see what you can do with this. It's just insanely good, to be honest. But yeah, sometimes you just want something simple done, and then all of these extra things that you have are just useless. Anyway, on to what we can actually do with the rest, because I showed you the repeater now. We're going to remove the mask. We're going to remove the repeater, I guess. And we're going to just say, well, this is supposed to be a 5-point star. So anyhow, the stroke, that is the line around it. Let's move in a little bit. So the line around it, it has a number of pixels, it has a color, it has some other properties as well. Width, yeah, that's the number of pixels. The color is obviously just the color of this one, so you can actually make multiple objects with different colors. And then, well, it has an opacity, and yeah, here is where it becomes interesting. You can change this this shape. Let's make it a little bit bigger, so that we can actually see what's going on. Size, where are you? Size is supposed to be here. Oh no, it's the radius in this case. So let's make it this, and then this even bigger. Yep, there you go. Let's drag it into the middle of our composition here, of our area. And now we're going to go back into what the stroke can do, because the stroke is actually something very useful for making animations. So even if you don't use a fill, the fill is the other one, of course, we can just put it off for now. And we're going to, for example, set dashes on this. Dashes are introduced by clicking this, the plus, and then you get these little dots. Well, they're not actually dots, they're line fragments. So currently we can set the amount of dash space, and or the amount of dashes. No, that's not actually it. It's the amount of dash space. And that's all good and such, but we want more control. So just hit the plus and you get the gap control. And the gap control can be used to actually not increase the size of the lines, but increase the size of the gap. So if you don't have it, so if you hit the minus here, it's equal. So if you up the dash, then the size between it will up as well. But yeah, let's say we're going to go down a little bit, and we're going to add the gap control, and we're going to up that. So we have something like this now, right? Maybe a little bit more of this, and then let's change the cap. So we have 3 types of caps. We have, yeah, I'll show you. No, I'll just move up the width a little bit so we can see what's actually happening. So we have, well, the standard cap is this one, which is just saying, well, as soon as it ends, it ends. And this one, oh, this one goes into the future a little bit, so it becomes exactly the same, except that it's a little bit bigger. And then the last one is actually where the treasure is at. It becomes round, and if you combine that with a dash size of 0, you actually get balls. And this is where a lot of the good effects come from these kind of combinations. Like, you can make them a little bit bigger and they will still be interesting shapes, but they're way more interesting than just the lines. And well, especially if you combine this with something else, that yeah, that ball shape can actually be really nice in your effect. So with that, you also have an offset, and the offset does exactly that. It makes sure that you can line up, for example, this, well, perfectly. But you can also animate it to get the effect that I just demonstrated. So to get the scrolling ball effect. And that becomes a really nice effect if you do it in, for example, a circle. And it will also look nice in this, but it will become especially nice if you combine multiple stars with the same property. And then make this one a little bit smaller, of course, because you want to actually see it. So let's make this a little bit smaller, like that, and then the outer radius as well. And then you can see that if we make the ball smaller as well, so stroke width, that's the ball size, then you can see that that would look really nice if we move both of those at the same time. And well, as I show you in the expressions, well, explanation, I guess, the tutorial, you can actually set expressions for the speed and such, so that you can get some really nice effects going here. But this is really one of the major advantages of the shape layer. The fact that you have full control over your shape, as well as the fact that you have all of these nice things available for your stroke. And I guess, yeah, we can go into fill as well. Fill is not nearly as interesting. Fill is just, yeah, you can say whether it's above or below your line here. So your, what was it called? Stroke. But that's not really that interesting. You can address the color and the opacity, and that's basically it. And then you have some transforms, but those transforms are the same as you would have on a solid. It's just the major thing is just the individual control over the path. So you can actually control things on the path that you couldn't control on other things. And of course you can do whatever you want with it. Just be creative. This is where the money is, and where the actual advantage of using a shape layer is. So really not a whole lot else to say about them. I wanted to address this separately because these kind of properties, so like these line things, they're not really part of, well, layers. They're just part of this one specific layer. And well, just use it when you have to, but don't use shape layers for everything, because they have huge disadvantages as well. For example, you can't adjust the things like you want to. Let's for example make a sphere, or a circle I should say. So holding shift makes a perfect circle. But now if I wanted to bounce it on something, so let's make a rectangle. Doesn't matter whether it's rounded or not. And I wanted to bounce this on here, then we can obviously just take the ellipse path, and then just move that. So position, we can move it, and then we would like to squash it at this point. But what does squash look like in this type of layer? It looks like this. Whereas what I would like to do is I would like to squash the bottom side, but not the top side. And there's just no way to do that. There's no control that allows you to squash the bottom side and not the top side. Whereas with a mask, if I did that, so if I did the same thing with a mask, let's just put a solid in here. It makes it so much easier. So we can actually see what we're doing. Oh, that's a shape layer. Yeah, solid. So we're going to make a same ellipse, so holding shift to create a perfect one, and we move down, and then we want to squash this. I can just take this point and just move it up. Now the bottom side is squashed, the top side is still perfectly good, and then I can unsquash it by just using this point at the normal position again. But yeah, you can see how that would make for a different animation style. So don't just blindly always use shape layers. Just think about what you want. If it's something that's unique to shape layers, then sure, use shape layers. But if it's something that is really hard to accomplish with a shape layer, just consider the other option. By the way, you can also give this guy a stroke, because that's not really a difference. You can give the other things strokes as well. It's just that it's a lot more work, so you can, here, same stroke, no problem. You can just address the points more directly and the shape itself, and well, that's just not possible for a solid and masks. So anyway, yeah, stroke is just one of those things, but as you might have noticed, there is no way to make these balls. So yeah, if you want the balls or the little lines, the dashes, whatever, you will have to do that in the shape layer. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. It's not a difficult subject, it's just you have to understand the difference and when to use which kind of layer. But yeah, hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something, and I will see you next time.